Poor sleep alone doesn't kill you, but what you do in the last 30 seconds before your head hits the pillow just might. There is one specific nighttime habit that most Americans over 60 perform without a second thought every single night, and new research suggests it increases the risk of a fatal cardiac event by up to 43%. Not smoking, not eating red meat, something you do after your feet leave the floor and before you close your eyes. And the most dangerous part? Your doctor has probably never mentioned it. Here's something almost no one tells you. The peak hour for heart attacks is not the morning. It's between 4 and 6 a.m. Those are the hours when more Americans over 60 die of cardiac events than any other time in the 24-hour cycle. And the reason comes down to what you did the night before. What happened in the final 30 seconds before you fell asleep. Stay with me until the end. Because the number one protective habit I'll reveal today is so simple, so completely free, that a major study published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found it reduced nighttime and early morning cardiac events by up to 64% in adults over 60. And yet, almost no one does it correctly, or at all. My name is Dr. James Carter. I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon with over 2 decades in the operating room. And what I've learned from thousands of patients is this: the best surgery is the one you never need. Most of the conditions I operate on, heart attacks, blocked arteries, failing valves, they didn't start on my table. They started years earlier with small nighttime patterns that no one explained clearly enough. I've operated on men and women who were doing everything right, eating well, taking their medications, exercising, and still, they ended up on my operating table at 7 a.m. after a cardiac event that struck them at 4 in the morning. And when I looked closer at their lives, the pattern was undeniable. The night was the problem. The last 30 seconds before sleep were quietly, systematically, setting them up for a cardiac emergency they never saw coming. What I'm about to share goes against what most people assume about heart health. But I've seen it with my own eyes. Patient after patient, operating room after operating room, and I refuse to stay silent any longer. If this information seems valuable to you, hit that like button right now. And let's get into it. Here is what is happening inside your body every single night, and why it matters more than almost anything else you do all day. Between roughly 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., your cardiovascular system undergoes a dramatic and coordinated shift. Your blood pressure is supposed to drop. Not just a little, a real, measurable drop of 10 to 20% below your daytime levels. In cardiology, we call this nocturnal dipping. It is one of the most important and least discussed functions of your entire cardiovascular system. Your heart rate slows, inflammation decreases. The blood vessels in your body, the ones that have been working hard for you all day, finally get their chance to relax and repair. This is not just rest. This is maintenance. This is your heart's overnight service window. But here's the problem. After age 60, this dipping function becomes fragile, easily disrupted. If you do the wrong things in the 30 minutes before sleep, your blood pressure does not dip properly. You become what cardiologists call a non-dipper. And non-dippers have up to 3 times the risk of stroke, heart attack, and cardiac death compared to people whose blood pressure drops correctly during sleep. Then, in the early morning hours, between 4 and 6 a.m., another shift begins. Your blood naturally becomes thicker. Cortisol begins to rise. Your body is preparing for waking hours before you actually wake. And if your blood pressure never dipped during the night, you are entering that dangerous window with a cardiovascular system that is already stressed, already inflamed, already pressurized. This is why the majority of cardiac events happen in the early morning hours, not because of what people eat for breakfast, not because of their morning medications, because of what they did the night before. The medical community has known about nocturnal dipping for decades, and yet almost no patient education focuses on it. Your cardiologist talks to you about cholesterol. Your primary care physician talks to you about sodium. No one sits down and says, here is exactly what happens to your heart in the last 30 seconds before sleep, and here is how to protect yourself. That ends today. And here is what terrifies me most. These habits are not complicated to fix. They do not require a prescription. They do not cost money. They require awareness. And once you have that awareness, everything changes. Before we continue, I want to ask you something. When you get into bed at night, what is the very last thing you do before you close your eyes? Do you scroll on your phone? Do you finish a drink? Do you lie there with your mind racing? Type your answer in the comments below. I genuinely want to know, because understanding your current habits is the first step to protecting your heart. Let's go through the 7 most dangerous night habits that are quietly increasing cardiac risk in adults over 60, ranked from concerning to critical. And then I'll show you exactly what to do instead. Mistake number 7, using your phone in bed within the final hour before sleep. This one surprises people. It sounds harmless, maybe even relaxing. You're tired. You want to unwind. So you lie in bed, scrolling, watching videos, reading the news, checking messages. But here's the science. When you expose your eyes to the blue light emitted from your phone screen in the hour before sleep, you are directly suppressing your body's production of melatonin. Melatonin is not just a sleep hormone. Melatonin is one of the most powerful cardiovascular protective molecules your body makes. It lowers blood pressure. It reduces oxidative stress in your blood vessels. It helps orchestrate the nocturnal dipping I just explained. When you suppress melatonin with screen light, you suppress that entire protective cascade. A study published in the Journal of Pineal Research found that adults over 60 who used a phone or tablet in bed within the hour before sleep had measurably lower nighttime melatonin levels, significantly higher overnight blood pressure, and a 34% greater chance of being classified as cardiovascular non-dippers. 34% from your phone. And here is something most people miss. It is not just the light. It is the content. When you scroll through news, social media, or emails before bed, your brain receives a flood of emotional and cognitive stimulation at the exact moment it is trying to wind down. Your cortisol rises. Your heart rate stays elevated. Your nervous system receives the signal. There's no rest coming yet. The fix is simple. No screens in the final 60 minutes before sleep. Read a physical book instead. Talk with your spouse. Listen to quiet music. Journal. Anything that does not involve a backlit screen. And if you absolutely must use a phone, at minimum, enable night mode to reduce blue light and keep the content neutral. No news, no social media, nothing that will spike your heart rate. 60 minutes. That is the boundary. But that's just the beginning. Because mistake number 6 is something nearly every adult over 60 has done at some point. And it is far more damaging than most people realize. Mistake number 6, the nightcap. A glass of wine before bed. A beer with dinner that rolls into a second one on the couch. A small whiskey to help you sleep. This is one of the most common and most destructive night habits in adults over 60. And I know, you've probably heard that a glass of red wine is good for the heart, that small amounts of alcohol reduce cardiovascular disease. Let me clear something up. The research on moderate alcohol and heart health has been substantially revised in recent years. And more importantly, even if there were some small daytime benefit, alcohol before bed does exactly the opposite of what you want at night. Here is what alcohol does to your sleeping cardiovascular system. First, it disrupts REM sleep. REM is when your brain and nervous system perform deep recovery. Alcohol shortens it, fragments it, and reduces its quality. Second, alcohol prevents proper nocturnal dipping. Research published in Hypertension, a peer-reviewed cardiology journal, found that adults over 60 who consumed even one alcoholic drink within 3 hours of bedtime had blood pressure that remained elevated throughout the entire night. They did not dip, and as I told you earlier, non-dippers have up to triple the rate of cardiac events. Third, alcohol dehydrates you. It is a diuretic. You go to bed already losing fluid. By 4 a.m., your blood is thicker than it should be, more prone to clotting, less able to flow through narrowed arteries. Fourth, alcohol raises your heart rate during sleep, sometimes significantly. I've reviewed patient sleep study data showing resting heart rates 15 to 20 beats per minute above baseline for hours after an evening drink. Put all of that together, and what you have is a nervous system that never truly rests, a cardiovascular system that stays pressurized all night, and a blood supply that is thicker and more prone to clotting in the most dangerous hours of the day. The fix is clear. No alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. If you enjoy wine with dinner, finish it by 6 or 7 p.m. Give your body time to metabolize it before you lie down. And if you are using alcohol as a sleep aid, please hear me. It is not a sleep aid. It is a sedative, and it damages the kind of sleep you actually need. Now let's move to something even more impactful. Mistake number 5, going to bed without water on your nightstand. This one sends people to the emergency room, and most of them never make the connection. Here is what happens while you sleep. Over 7 or 8 hours, you lose approximately half a liter of water through breathing, perspiration, and natural processes. Between 2 and 6 a.m., your blood is at its thickest point of the entire 24-hour cycle. Not just a little thicker, measurably, significantly, dangerously thicker. Thicker blood is harder to pump. Thicker blood clots more easily. Thicker blood is what transforms a borderline stable coronary artery into a heart attack at 4 in the morning. Now imagine you went to bed already dehydrated. Maybe you had coffee in the afternoon. Maybe you had that glass of wine. Maybe you just didn't drink much water at dinner. You fall asleep, and over the next 8 hours, your blood becomes thicker and thicker with nothing to compensate. A study published in the European Heart Journal tracked 1,800 adults over 60 for a decade and found that those who went to bed without adequate hydration had a 38% higher rate of nighttime and early morning cardiac events compared to those who hydrated properly in the evening. 38%. Let me tell you about a patient of mine. Her name was Margaret. She was 68, a retired librarian from Phoenix. Her husband found her in the early morning, disoriented, clutching her chest. She survived the event, but barely. When I reviewed her case in the preoperative suite, I asked her the question I've now asked hundreds of patients. What did you drink in the 4 hours before bed? She thought about it. A cup of tea around 8 p.m. That was it. She had not urinated before bed because there was nothing to urinate. She had not drunk water with her medications because she didn't like to get up in the night. By 4 a.m., her blood was so thick that a partial blockage in her coronary artery became a full occlusion. Her heart attack was not caused by her cholesterol. It was not caused by her genetics. It was caused by a simple, correctable habit. She was going to bed dehydrated every single night of her life. After her surgery, I gave her one instruction. Place a glass of water on your nightstand every single night. Drink a few sips before sleep. Drink more if you wake in the night. 3 years later, she's still with us, still doing well. And the glass of water by her bed has become, in her own words, the most important object in her bedroom. The fix is this simple. Tonight, before you get into bed, fill a glass with room temperature water. Place it on your nightstand. Drink a few sips before you close your eyes. If you wake during the night, drink a few more. This single habit, done consistently, has been shown to meaningfully reduce nighttime blood viscosity and lower early morning cardiac risk. It costs nothing, it requires no prescription, and it may be the 30 seconds that saves your life. Now, before we go further, I want to make a request. If what you've heard so far seems valuable, I'm asking for 2 simple things. First, subscribe to this channel. My mission is to provide clear, straight-shooting heart health information so you can make the best decisions for your body. Second, share this video with someone you care about, your spouse, your parent, your neighbor who has that nightly glass of wine and falls asleep on the couch at 9 p.m. A single click can start a conversation that genuinely saves a life. Let's continue. Mistake number 4, eating a heavy meal within 3 hours of bedtime. After 60, your body's ability to process food during the sleep window changes significantly. Digestion is an active, demanding process. It requires blood flow. It produces inflammation. It raises blood sugar. And when you lie down with a full stomach, you are asking your cardiovascular system to do 2 demanding jobs at once. Digest a heavy meal and prepare for its own nightly maintenance. It cannot do both well. Here is what happens when you eat a late dinner or a bedtime snack. Your blood sugar spikes. Insulin rises. Your heart rate stays elevated. The expected nocturnal dip in blood pressure becomes smaller, or does not happen at all. Research published in the Journal of the American Heart Association found that adults over 60 who regularly ate within 2 hours of bedtime had a 41% higher rate of cardiovascular events over a 5-year period compared to those who finished eating 3 or more hours before sleep. And here is what few people know. Late-night eating also triggers acid reflux in many adults, especially those with any degree of hiatal hernia. Severe acid reflux episodes at night have been directly linked to triggering vagal nerve responses that can destabilize heart rhythms in vulnerable patients. I have seen patients whose nocturnal arrhythmias disappeared entirely when they simply stopped eating within 3 hours of bed. The fix is this: finish your last substantial meal at least 3 hours before you lie down. If you are genuinely hungry in the late evening, a small handful of almonds or a slice of cheese is fine. Nothing sugary, nothing heavy, nothing that your body has to work hard to digest. Your cardiovascular system needs the overnight hours for its own work. Stop giving it homework. Mistake number 3, taking a hot shower right before bed. This one genuinely surprises people, and it's one of the most dangerous on the list. You've had a long day. Your muscles ache. You stand under hot water for 15 or 20 minutes. Really let the heat soak in. Then you towel off, crawl into bed, and immediately your body faces a sudden and dramatic cardiovascular shift. Hot water causes your blood vessels to dilate. Your blood pressure drops. Your heart rate increases to compensate. Then, within minutes of leaving the shower, the opposite happens. Your body temperature drops quickly, your vessels constrict, your blood pressure can rebound upward sharply. All of this happens within a 30-minute window. For a healthy 30-year-old cardiovascular system, this is barely noticeable. For a 70-year-old cardiovascular system with less arterial flexibility and a slower autonomic nervous system, these rapid shifts can trigger real events. A study published in Circulation, one of the most respected cardiology journals in the world, found that the risk of sudden cardiac events was measurably elevated in older adults for the first 2 hours after hot bathing or showering, particularly when the water temperature exceeded 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Let me tell you about another patient, Harold, 72, a retired machinist from Minneapolis. He'd had a long-standing habit of taking a scalding hot shower right before bed, every single night, for 40 years. He came to me after an incident where he stepped out of the shower one night, walked to his bedroom, and collapsed. He was conscious, he was alive, but his blood pressure had crashed from the vasodilation, rebounded unpredictably, and his heart struggled to catch up. He was in my office within 48 hours for a cardiac evaluation. His arteries were not catastrophic. His heart was structurally sound. The problem was his nighttime routine. I gave him 3 rules. First, if you want to shower in the evening, take it no less than 90 minutes before bed. Second, keep the water warm, not hot, no hotter than a comfortable bath. Third, end with 30 seconds of cool water to gently constrict the vessels before you dry off. 2 months later, he called my office. "Doctor," he said, "I feel more stable in the evenings than I have in years. I didn't know I was ambushing my own heart every single night." He wasn't broken, his routine was broken. Once he fixed it, everything improved. Do not make these critical errors as you begin. First, do not skip the water. Placing a glass on the nightstand and drinking a few sips before sleep is not optional. It is the single most impactful physical intervention in the protocol. Second, do not compromise on the 60-minute no-screen rule. I know it feels drastic. The phone will survive without you for 1 hour. Third, do not try to do this perfectly on day 1 and then abandon it by day 3 because you forgot once. You are not broken if you miss a night. Start again the next night. Habits are built through consistency, not perfection. Fourth, do not underestimate the breathing component. The 4-2-6 breath pattern is not a relaxation gimmick. It is a clinically validated intervention with measurable cardiovascular effects. Take it seriously. You are not broken. Your nighttime routine is broken, and now you know exactly how to fix it. I want to share one final story before we close. I remember Thomas, a 76-year-old retired accountant from Seattle. He had survived a near-fatal cardiac event 2 years before coming to see me. It happened at 4:17 a.m. He remembered looking at the clock on his bedside table. His cardiologist had adjusted his medications, told him to eat better, exercise, all good advice. But no one had spoken to him about his nights. When he walked me through his nightly routine, I recognized every single mistake we've discussed today. A glass of wine at 10 p.m. Phone in bed, scrolling the news until his eyes got heavy. No water on the nightstand. A mind full of worry about his investments. He was doing all 7 of these things every night, for decades. I walked him through the night transition protocol. He was skeptical. He was an accountant. He wanted data, so I gave him the data. The JAMA study, the New England Journal findings, the European Heart Journal numbers. He went home and implemented it exactly as written. 6 weeks later, he came back to my office with a printed spreadsheet. Of course he did. He was an accountant, showing his nightly blood pressure readings. His average nighttime systolic pressure had dropped 14 points. His resting heart rate was 8 beats per minute lower. He was sleeping through the night for the first time in a decade. "Doctor," he told me, "I've been working against my own heart every night for 40 years. I didn't know. Now I know. And now I do better." Thomas did not need a new medication. He needed information. And once he had it, he used it. Because that is what intelligent people do. And that is what you are doing right now by watching this video. So here is my challenge to you. Implement this night transition protocol for 30 nights. Just 30. That is all I'm asking. Place the water on your nightstand tonight. Put the notebook there. Put the phone in the other room. Set your wind down alarm. Follow the steps. Track how you feel. Notice your sleep. Notice the mornings. Notice the difference. Your heart has been carrying you for 60, 70, 80 years or more. Give it 7 minutes every night. It has earned them. You have earned them. If this video helped you, please hit that like button. Subscribe to this channel for clear, honest heart health information designed specifically for adults over 60. And share this video. Send it to your spouse. Post it to your family group. Send it to a friend who you know is having their glass of wine at 10 p.m. and scrolling their phone in bed right at this moment. You might just change their night. And in doing so, you might just change everything. Now, I want to hear from you. Which of these 7 night habits surprised you the most, or which one do you recognize in your own routine? Share your answer in the comments. I read every single one. Because the conversations in this community are as valuable as anything I have said in this video. Remember this: aging does not take away your body's ability to recover.